welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this American League Championship Series MLB DFS Showdown slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Excited to get into it. Going to give you guys my top plays to get you in the green, get you at the top of the leaderboards, and win that money as always. The goal on this channel. Quick reminder that if you do enjoy the content at any point in this video, if you could please take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. That would be greatly appreciated. And then don't forget to stay tuned to the end of the video for my home run call of the day. And with all that being said, let's go to start breaking this one down. As always, I like to go ahead and start my sheet by K rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts. Figure out these two pitchers on the slate. Now keep in mind, it's a little bit different with this format. In Showdown format, it's only going to be DraftKings that offers pitching. Over on FanDuel, there's not going to be any pitching offered. So this is really a DraftKings only decision as far as if we actually want to play one of these pitchers. As far as the hitters, of course, we're going to analyze these pitchers anyways. And Chris Sale, I'll start with him with a 28.4% KO overall, a 12.9 swing strike rate. Hard contact stuff's really good with a 28% clip to righties for strikeout rate and a 30.8% K rate to lefties. So Chris Sale, the real deal when looking at his stuff, it's very clear his weakness. It would be right-handed power. He has given up a 461 slugging to righties with a 355 WOBA. That's less than ideal with a decent amount of fly balls. Does still have that 28% K rate against those righties, but it's going to be the righties really when you're looking to target him with these Houston Astros bats. And as far as Framber Valdez is concerned, he doesn't have the best K stuff, not the best swing strike stuff. He does have a bit of a walk issue as well. But his ground ball, fly ball stuff is absolutely elite, allowing a ground ball about 70.3% of the time in comparison to giving him a fly ball only 14.9% of the time. That is absolutely ridiculous. Very elite stuff from a ground ball aspect. His weakness would be lefty on lefty. So far, he's given up a 320 WOBA and a 363 slugging to those lefties, actually. So might be something that not everyone knows. We can take advantage of his slightly worse splits against those left-handed hitters. So that's something that I think is actually very interesting to note because a lot of times people don't like to play lefty on lefty. Maybe we can get creative with our Boston stacks and really load them up in left-handed hitting. So now that we know that, as far as where this ball game is being played, it's in Houston, Minute Maid Park. As far as how that plays to hitters and pitchers, I was going to go ahead and pull up my diagram for you guys here. Down the left field line does play very friendly to right-handed hitters. There's a short porch there, so always like targeting the righties that can pull the ball down the left field line, but it's not as if the home runs play all that different down the right field line for the most part. It's really just more so the triples, the singles, and stuff in the gap. Not quite as friendly to those left-hand pull hitters that like to go to right field. But overall, the weather we don't have to worry about. This being in a dome, one thing we could maybe keep an eye on is on Twitter. Always keep an eye on these teams on whether the dome will be open or closed. Retractable roofs is always a thing. Because if it's really warm in Houston and they decide to open it up, of course, that's going to help our case for the ball carrying. Higher humidity, higher heat, the ball should go further. So keep this stuff in mind. So, as far as breaking down Chris Sale and these Houston hitters and figuring out who's going to fare best against him, looking at his repertoire here, we talked about how he'll definitely struggle more so against righties. And as far as what he goes to overall, you're looking at a fastball slider combination for the most part. 92, 93 mile an hour fastball, 94 mile an hour fastball on average. And then he will break out the slider a bunch. As far as who performs best against that pitch, without a doubt, the first guy that's going to come to mind is going to be Mr. Jose Altuve, who really rakes off the fastball here and has just been traditionally really good against lefties, traditionally really good in the postseason. And everything matching up for Mr. Altuve. And then when you factor in that Chris Sale's biggest strength is his strikeout rate, and Jose Altuve really doesn't strike out very much, this is all going to make sense when targeting Altuve. He has a 325 ISO against this fastball with a 451 WOBA on that 92, 93 mile an hour fastball. And then as far as the next guy that we'd be looking to, we have a couple. The first one's going to be actually lefty on lefty and Yordan Alvarez because he's the next guy that really fares well against that fastball off left-handed pitching. So Yordan Alvarez and Jose Altuve would definitely be my two favorite Astros against the fastball in this situation. But of course, as mentioned, he does throw slider as well. Before we get over to the slider, I will say one last guy in a small sample size that's really hit this fastball well off lefties is Mr. Jake Meyers. He is day-to-day with a shoulder injury, so keep an eye on whether he's actually going to be in this game. But if he is, I definitely do think that he's in a great spot here as well against Chris Sale off the fastball for some power upside. He's a right-handed bat that really mashes. Bregman doesn't hit that very well off the fastball. Carlos Correa doesn't hit it very well off the fastball. Yulieski Gurriel doesn't hit very well off the fastball against lefties, so that's something to note. And then as far as the slider is concerned, and breaking down the hitters that excel best against that pitch on the Houston Astros squad, once again, Mr. Altuve with a 207 ISO. Gonna really like him, especially when you're breaking down how these guys fare. But Alex Bregman, who we mentioned struggles against the fastball, does not struggle against the slider whatsoever. He features a 481 ISO with a 454 WOBA against the slider off left-handed pitching. Those are some massive numbers. Keep that in mind. Yordan Alvarez hits that slider very well, and Yulieski Gurriel hits the slider very well as well. So maybe Yordan Alvarez lefty on lefty. We'll get him at some lower ownership than we should. We have seen that Chris Sale has been very, very good against lefties, so it's nothing to sweep under the rug and not talk about, because a 192 slugging, giving up 30.8% K rate to lefties, has been very, very against lefties. So just keep that in mind when you're playing Yordan Alvarez. It is a bit of a risk. Hopefully, once you get past Chris Sale on this Red Sox bullpen, he'll be able to really excel against the bullpen arms as well. But from a pitch aspect, he does really excel against the slider as well. We talked about Bregman, and then Yulieski Gurriel, also the guy as well as Altuve. So those are the guys that I'm really going to be locking in on in my lineups that profile well against this particular pitcher. From the Houston side, of course, you can target Michael Brantley, Carlos Correa. One thing I also wanted to note, and he doesn't grade out against him very well pitch-wise, which is a little unfortunate because I was getting a little excited, and I think I still am, to play some Kyle Tucker. If you go to my splits leaderboard and you look at the top guys in the league against left-handed pitching here, and we scroll down to Mr. Kyle Tucker, he actually grades out as one of the top guys in the league against lefties in the season, and that's in a lefty-on-lefty format. He only had a 12.4% carry to lefties with a 292 ISO and a 578 slugging up until this point in the season. I think that's something definitely to take a note of. The one thing, like I said, we're worried about with Chris Sale, of course, is the strikeout rate, and when the fact that he doesn't strike out a lot, that's going to help us, and it's lefty-on-lefty, so you should be able to get him low-owned. So I do think Kyle Tucker is an interesting, sneaky tournament play, and someone that I definitely wanted to bring up here. As far as playing both of these pitchers, I mean, it's going to be kind of tough to not want to play them because I think this game is going to be a little bit more of a lower scoring one, but both of these lineups are really good. Both these lineups really don't strike out the most. So when I'm deciding which one of these guys I want to play, I mean, I think Chris Sale has the bigger K upside by far. Framber Valdez also has a better ground ball fly ball stuff, though. I think that Chris Sale's more likely to get blown up here, if we're being realistic, as far as, get multiple home runs given up. Framber Valdez just does a really good job of keeping the ball on the ground. So when deciding which of these guys to play, there's multiple avenues. You could have multiple different mindsets here. I mean, you could just say Framber Valdez isn't going to get a lot of strikeouts, but he's going to go deep in the game, and Chris Sale's going to get blown up and stack up the Astros. You could say both these guys go deep in the game, play both if you could possibly fit them in with some cheaper bats. We'll do a little bit of a lineup build here after. But at Framber Valdez, as far as the Red Sox bats that are going to fare the best off him, and when breaking down what he throws here, on average, he goes that sinker ball a ton. We talked about his extremely high ground ball rate. There's a reason. He's really reliant on the sinker. He goes to it about 50% of the time to both sides of the plate. And as far as the top guys on the Red Sox that match that pitch off lefties, it's all going to start with Kiki Hernandez at the top of the lineup, a guy that traditionally does hit left-handed pitching very well, and a guy that hits the sinker ball, fastball very, very well. He has a 288 ISO with a 440 WOBA against that pitch, a 43.14 hard contact percentage for Mr. Kike Hernandez. That's all very good stuff. And then the next guy that's going to fare well, there's going to be back-to-back guys in JD Martinez, Hunter Renfroe, and Bobby Dalbec, all three of which hit left-handed pitching very well, all three of which hit the sinker very well here, with JD Martinez featuring a 212 ISO with a 448 WOBA against that pitch, so JD Martinez making a lot of sense for sure. And then Hunter Renfroe and Bobby Dalbec, also two guys that match lefties, also two guys that rake the sinker very well for Hunter Renfroe. Top guy on the Red Sox as far as how he profiles here, with a 57.69% hard contact rate with a 548 ISO and a 610 WOBA. That's ridiculous numbers, so Hunter Renfroe makes a lot of sense. And lastly, Mr. Bobby Dahlbeck, who's been raking off left-hand pitching all season long, also features some good statistics against the sinker with a 300 ISO and a 408 WOBA. So yeah, those are the guys that really fare against left-handed pitching the best on the squad anyway. The fact that they hit the sinker very well is going to help our case. And then as far as his secondary pitch, Framber Valdez, very reliant on the curveball. He'll go to that curveball approximately 30+% of the time to both sides of the plate as well. And as far as who hits the curveball well, you're really only looking at 2 guys on this team, and it's going to be JD Martinez and Bobby Dahlbeck. So JD Martinez on the screen right now. We already talked about him. And we know Bobby Dahlbeck, who we've been talking about all season from a power aspect of the bottom of the order, can really rake there as well. So he's going to be making sense, and these guys are definitely going to be my top options. They profile best against left-hand pitching anyways. The lefty on lefty, you can make an argument for maybe a Schwarber. We talked about how Framber Valdez has given up more hard contact, but these guys just really don't grade out that well from a pitch data aspect. Like I said, those guys that traditionally hit those left-handed pitching very well actually grade out the best as well. And they're definitely sitting at the top of my list here for priorities, and they'd be who I'm looking to. So that's a pretty good overall breakdown. Let's do a little bit of lineup building, and then I'll give you guys my home run call before I let you go. But let's do some lineup building here. So let's just say our game script's going to be that Chris Sale goes out there, he gets the most amount of strikeouts, but he gives up 2 or 3 solo shots. And those solo shots are going to be to Mr. Altuve, who we talked about at the top of the lineup. Alex Bregman, who hits the slider really well, we talked about from a secondary pitch aspect, and Yulieski Gurriel. And then as far as anyone else on this team, this is where things are going to get interesting based upon who cracks the lineup from a salary aspect. I mean, I really like Bobby Dahlbeck as a salary relief guy, but then that only leaves us with about 3.8 per player. So it's probably not going to be able to make all this happen, honestly. That means we're going to have to keep Altuve out or someone here. Yordan Alvarez, I think, is actually at a pretty friendly discount here as well. I know it's lefty on lefty, but I don't really care. We talked about how he profiles well, so we'll drop down to Yordan. That leaves us with 5.8. Well, that leaves us enough room to fit in a Christian Vasquez, who we could play to round out our order here. So that's kind of a first build, I guess. That's a lineup I wouldn't mind rolling out whatsoever with Chris Sale at the top. If anything, maybe play one less Houston bat and just say they get 2 solo shots so that you're not getting quite as much negative correlation here against your pitcher. And see if we can fit in like a Hunter Renfroe and then drop down to someone, yeah, like a Yulieski Gurriel here. So that could be another example for a build. You could also play the Framber Valdez shuts him down card. Framber Valdez doesn't have much strikeout upside, so it's really going to have to be him pitching very deep into this game, which, don't get me wrong, it's very possible. If we go that route as the captain spot, you know, I'm going to have a hard time playing too many Boston one-offs, I feel like. Maybe we just play like a JD Martinez, and then we stack it up on the other side with some of those guys that we liked from Houston, Yordan, Alex Bregman. We liked Hunter Renfroe as well, maybe as a one-off. That leaves us with 2-2. So you can see things get pretty dicey pretty quickly here as far as salary is concerned. We talked about possibly being able to play Jake Myers at 4K if he cracks the lineup. He could be a big salary relief option that I'd be willing to play for sure. Leaves us with 5-6. If Plawecki were to catch, we could play him. He's realistically probably not going to. Chas McCormick, another guy, if he cracks the lineup at 4-4, will be a salary relief option for us. So overall, we're probably going to have to drop down for JD Martinez. I mean, realistically, we just can't fit him in. So maybe to a Kike Hernandez, who we like to 8-4. That leaves us with 6-6. You can play Iglesias. Probably go to a Bobby Dahlbeck there. So we have 2 Boston one-offs and then Houston side. So we're not really interested in Chris Sale. We're saying he's most likely going to get blown up. Valdez goes pretty deep in this game, and the only ones that really get to him are Dahlbeck and Kike Hernandez in that lineup build. Over on FanDuel, much simpler build, really. I mean, it's as simple as you want the guy that has the highest score in the MVP slot. You want the guy that has the second highest score in the star slot from a hitting aspect, and the 3, following in the utility spot. It's really that simple. So going over this shouldn't be too difficult. And the MVP, let's see. We really liked a bunch of guys, really. But let's say we go with Kike Hernandez in the MVP. He's only 6K. He's at the top. He profiled really well off the lefty. We like Hunter Renfroe as well, and he's a little bit of a cheaper price tag. Maybe people aren't quite as willing to put Hunter Renfroe and or anyone at the bottom of the lineup in their star and MVP slots because they're low in the order. and that can maybe make us different. Play Altuve on the other side. That leaves us with 5K, maybe, or I'm sorry, 7K per player, and then we could fit in a Yordan Alvarez and let's say an Alex Bregman or a Yuli Gurriel or a Kyle Schwarber or a Bobby Dalbec. There's plenty of options. Honestly, FanDuel's build's pretty easy, especially with some of these guys that I said don't profile quite as well. Being priced up, you know, Rafael Devers, Carlos Correa, those guys that other people may want to pay up for, I'd be willing to fade based on what we went over here and get different in my lineup. So that is my overall breakdown for this MLB American League Championship Showdown slate. Before I let you guys go, I got to give you my home run call of the day. Let's get into it. And my home run call of the day today is going to be Jose Altuve taking on Chris Sale. We mentioned his hard contact issues against righties, giving up a 461 slugging with a 355 WOBA. And then when you're looking at the strength, really the only thing that's going to impact us is the strikeout rate. Jose Altuve, not an issue with that either. Doesn't strike out a lot on the season. And then when you're breaking down what Chris Sale will go to in the fastball and the slider combination, we talked about it with a high ISO with a 325 ISO with a 451 WOBA against the fastball, and then he's going to break out the slider. That's not an issue either because Jose Altuve has a 207 ISO with a 309 WOBA. Love this spot for Jose Altuve. Get him in your lineups because he is my home run call of the day. So there you have it, guys. Jose Altuve. Get him in your lineups, and that is all from me in this one. If you did enjoy the content, if you could please take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. That would be greatly appreciated. Wish you guys all the best of luck in this MLB Showdown slate, and we will see you in the next one.